The Happy Warrior Podcast. Conservative commentary on the news of the day from a more positive perspective.
Hello again, everyone. This is the Happy Warrior Podcast. This is your host, Peter Von Pischke, here again with you to discuss what's going on in the world of news, what's going on in the world of the United States of America, what's going on in your own little world inside your head. I am flabbergasted as I make this podcast. First off, Michael Knowles is going to be in town on Thursday, so I'm thinking of him when I make this episode. Michael, if you're listening to this, call me. Okay, so putting that aside, I am flipping out of my head. I mean, I'm just losing my mind. So since I put out the last podcast episode, which, by the way, thank you for all the positive responses to it. I know there was more material I could have covered about the mobs. I skipped the Antifa stuff in Portland where they accosted the old man who just wanted to drive his car. There was a mob. There are a couple mob things since then. Protesters attacking people in restaurants. People on the left and right, by the way, getting the faces of politicians, not letting them speak, not letting them move, not letting anyone listen. Just Saul Alinsky mob tactics. Just nuts. Just flipping bug on their butts nuts. Hard to believe. Hard to believe. Here's the thing that got me fired up. Okay, here's the thing that got me fired up. No one on either side is hardly willing to genuflect. No one on either side is willing to say, okay, we need to calm down. We need to cool things off. We need to stop talking past each other and start talking to one another. Over the weekend, I had an awesome chat with a guy named Nick Wieland. He's a politician here in Sioux Falls. Cool guy. He ran for city council this year at the same time as running for school board. He is on, as far right as I am, ultra right, as Jezebel puts it. He's on the left, but we have awesome conversations from time to time, and we were talking, about the study of sociology and how they use that sometimes to justify politics. And we were talking about, the value of why are there more people on the left that are in colleges, and it was just a solid conversation. Nick is a good guy. I disagree with him, but he is a good man, and you can do that. That's how our society should be. Okay, we could be as ultra right and as ultra left as we want, and we should be able to talk. We should be able to chat. We should be able to learn from one another, find where our values and ideas cut together, where they intersect, find where the concerns we have intersect, and start there. Okay, they do exist. I know that's hard to believe, but there are things, where both sides are, in fact, I would say most things were actually together on. It's just we disagree about how to get there. We both want to take good care of the planet. We just disagree with what measures should be taken to reach that goal. We both are against mass shootings. Well, he feels that guns are too permissive. I think gun laws are too stringent. But we both want to get to that same place where schools are safe. This goes back even to when I ran for school board. I started this podcast, because the Happy Warrior, out of the experiences I had, and I shared them with Robert as they came to me, of people attacking me and claiming how violent and dangerous I was. If you know me, I can barely, get out of the bed physically. I mean, I'm not really a danger to anyone. But I was inciting violence. I was a danger. I had this grandma that kind of stalked my Facebook stuff and says, you're making it unsafe for my grandchildren. Please don't come. You're making it unsafe. And I thought that was insane. It was like, look, I'm okay with the March for Our Lives people protesting. I disagree with them, but then let them protest, and I'll have my little thing here on the side. And I just have different views. I bought 2 boxes of donuts. I gave those donuts to the March for Our Lives protesters. I didn't save any from my side. I tried to constantly keep it in a peaceful, compassionate circle, because I love the Second Amendment. And one of the reasons why I love the Second Amendment is because I love the Bill of Rights. I love the Enlightenment. I love the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. The Bill of Rights, starting with the First Amendment, are such a phenomenal change. There's the 2,000-Year Leap, a fantastic book I recommend you all read, that points this out, that society and technology, they drastically, jumped into this last 200 years. It's amazing what gains we've made as humankind, and that can all be linked back to the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. Okay, Civil society in the United States of America is this. We talk to one another. We have differences. We shake hands at the end of the day, and we be friends. We can go to the dinner table and joke and talk about our families, talk about what we enjoyed on Netflix, talk about our dogs, things that we all have in common. What shocks me, and I can't get my head over this. I am seriously flabbergasted, a little worried for our country. I know Facebook is not quite the den of scum and villainy that Twitter is. I mean, I'm not talking about what Facebook does. I'm just talking about. Sorry, I have my volume on. I'm not talking about what Facebook does, saying free speech. What they're doing to free speech right now is disgusting. I'm talking about the people that use Facebook. I'm talking about my fellow South Dakotans, my fellow Midwesterners. My Facebook friends. It's scary. Now, I do try on Facebook I've tried harder not to be so flamboyant in my rhetoric because I know it causes people to stop thinking, but I was very fair in this. So what got me going? What got me going today? Well, I'll move over. There was in the New York Times yesterday an editorial that really scares me. And that's the word. It's scary. It is scary. Because the New York Times, also sometimes called by its nickname, the Gray Lady, for years until about 10 years ago, was pretty much every single news organization in the country turned to the New York Times, just reported whatever the New York Times had prioritized, often just using the same verbiage, stealing the language. I mean, getting as close to plagiarism as they possibly could, particularly TV News. TV News still does this. Many media organizations, particularly on the left, still do this. Okay, so what the New York Times says, what the New York Times pushes out as important and what's okay has reverberations out in the rest of the country. Okay? Did you all understand? What the New York Times says matters. As much as we have issues with the New York Times, often, what the New York Times says matters, okay? Doesn't matter if you're conservative. You have to face this fact. They are relevant. They have some relevancy still. Okay. So I think we can all agree, hopefully, on that point. New York Times published this. This is called Count Me Among the M Word. No, Count Me Among the Mob. It's by Charles M. Blow, opinion columnist. This was a leading editorial. So this wasn't the conservative editorial that hide in the back, okay? I'm just going to read some from it. He says, one thing that I find profoundly disappointing about modern liberalism, and you're just like, well, what is the problem with modern liberalism? Is it too much to the left? Does it not appeal to centrist voters? Is it too partisan? What is it? What's the problem with modern liberalism? Particularly as it stands now in opposition to Trumpism, is the degree to which it is reactive, governed by what is being done to it rather than its own positive vision. It's true that Donald Trump is not only antithetical to liberal values, he is antithetical to most American values, and as such, limiting his power and limiting the duration of his tenure of paramount concern, absolute urgency. Remember that underlying there at the end. Paramount concern, absolute urgency. So he kind of starts out maybe saying that we need to go forth with a powerful and positive message, not be reactive. So that sounds all right. Therefore, here's where the kicker is. Therefore, resisting what Trump represents becomes a central point of moral rectitude and ultimate patriotism. Ultimate. That verbiage right there, ultimate. Resistance is a reaction to Trump. That can't be the sum total of one's statement of principles. You must be driven toward a concept of what you want this country to become and not just driven by a fear of what the country could descend into. Liberal enthusiasm can't hinge solely on prospects for overwhelming victory due to conservative lethargy and say the same. We can't just win because the conservatives are lazy. Enthusiasm can be a highly fluctuant variable in a political cycle. The only enthusiasm you can control is your own. All campaigns are to some degree an act of public manipulation, hopefully to the good, but often to the ill. There are two ways to drive turnout: excitement or incitement. Voters can either be animated by hope or fear, optimism or angst. He is completely right there. Those are some of the strategies on the table. How are we going to get voters excited to come out and vote for us? Because people don't show up in midterms usually. Usually, whatever party has control of the presidency, the opposite party is going to be more energetic when it comes out to vote in the midterms. Okay, that's just generally how political analysts look at it. Here we go. Trump's default position is the use of fear. Scared about his prospects should Democrats take control of both House of Representatives and the Senate, Trump is campaigning like crazy, trying desperately to stir his base to action. And he knows the easiest way to do that is stoke its anger, to appeal to the same misogyny, here we go with the verbiage, misogyny, racism, nationalism, and insecurity. Misogyny, racism, nationalism, and insecurity. Okay, they hate women, they hate minorities. Nationalistic, which is a veiled push, just saying that we're like Hitler. You know, that when they use nationalism, what they're really saying is that we're towards fascism. Okay, and insecurity, they carried in the White House. Okay, we're scared. We're scared. We're uncomfortable with ourselves. We're scared. And then campaign stops. He keeps saying that he's on the ticket, that state and local elections are not about the candidates, but about him, his supporters, and whether or not the dark vision of a diminished America that he has ushered in will survive. Last week, he debuted talking points, saying this election will be about Kavanaugh caravans, law and order, and common sense. Okay, so Trump is saying, okay, he's pushing. So Kavanaugh caravans, law and order, and common sense. So Kavanaugh is about the Supreme Court justice stuff and all the craziness around. Caravans is about the illegal immigrant caravans that's happening right now, and we'll see how that goes. Law and order and common sense. I think everyone wants those last parts, but they're saying that Trump wants us to go to this safe place. First, the defense and championing of Justice Brett Kavanaugh after publicly attacking, discrediting, and diminishing the women who accused him of sexual assault is to me a clear expression of misogyny. Trump has a habit of not believing the women who accuse powerful men of sexual assault, a position that probably comes naturally to him because he is accused himself. Second, he is trying desperately to elevate immigration's burning issue again. This is an easy target for Trump and his base because it encapsulates his sentiment without expressly articulating it. America is being invaded and overrun by people who are not white and not European, which risks the maintenance of American heritage. Again, I point to the language. White people's control of this country is in danger and under assault and must be defended and protected at all costs. Okay, so they're saying they're on the right, they are scared of minorities and they're scared of women, and they're scared of falling out of power. Which I could go in the demographics of saying, no, that is not true. Surely for the fact that we're still a 70% plus white majority nation. I mean, the demographics make that supposed scenario impossible. Okay, not that there isn't any racism or misogyny out in the world, just that that's not the driving influence on people that they're worried about. But I digress. But rather than using words like white supremacy nationalism, he uses proxies like law and order, border walls, and infestations. Now he wants to cast liberals and Democrats as mobs. He even went as far as saying Democrats produce mobs while Republicans produce jobs. That's so stupid. Okay, so he's made this argument here that the right is actually evil. The right is evil. They hate women. They hate minorities. They don't want to lose their power. They're using institutions. You know, all the evil things that the right said about the Obama administration, much of which actually was true. Not all of it, but much of it, which was true. They're now saying that the right is doing that. And we're doing it because we're evil. Trump is evil. Conservatives are evil. And the government that has conservative values are evil. Okay, so he's saying that there is a great Satan. Okay, that's the language that Iran likes to use. The great Satan. That's, of course, America. They're saying the right is the great Satan. Well, if it's the great Satan, what do you think that justifies? Okay, if you say one side is the archetype for evil, what do you think that justifies, guys? Well, count me among the mob. If that means people who stand in opposition to Trump's degradation of the country in all ways, if the mob stands up for women, stands up for the National Rifle Association, I want in. If the mob hates corruption and loves the increasing diversity of the country, then it is for me. If the mob finds it abhorrent that during the same week it became clear Washington Post columnists had been killed in the Saudi Arabian consulate, Trump praised an American politician who assaulted journalists, which he did, then yes, yes, yes to the mob. Make no mistake, Trump's strategy will work. He now knows people who support him very well. He has never stopped playing to them. They are family. They feast together on hatred and intolerance. But none of that should dampen liberal enthusiasm or soften liberal resolve. We want this country to be cannot subject to the whims of Trump and his base. This election, indeed, all that follows, no longer about reactions, but about realignment. We must conceive of the country we want and drive relentlessly toward it, not because we are thunderstruck by sheer immorality, again, that has risen the pinnacle of power, but because we know that power is in fact possession of the people and democracy, and we can we both harness it and assert it? Can we both harness power and assert power? Trump is going to be Trump. Stop playing by his rules. Don't allow him to dictate the terms of the debate. Let him call you whatever he likes. If he says you're part of a mob, so be it. Stay focused on the future. Belongs to America looks absolutely nothing like Trump's America vote. So the article does try to do these very slim, like, don't be naughty now. But if he really was concerned about that, he wouldn't be painting the right as evil and then saying that basically he's going as far as saying any means necessary to justify the ends we want. Which, by the way, he says here what is it? He says about the democracy. Possession of the people and democracy that can both harness it and assert it about power? Scary. So what do they say about large groups of people that just want power and to enforce their will? Mob. That's the right word. And the French Revolution diverged from the American Revolution in several important ways, but one of it was that we put not just for Republican government in the United States, but it was also a Republican revolution. Okay, we wanted freedom, but it wasn't this full-on out, rule of the mob. Okay, it isn't straight up democracy. France did not have that. The French Revolution started out going for a republic. The French did not want it. They wanted straight up democracy. De Tocqueville. Look up de Tocqueville's history after the American Revolution. It's almost more fascinating than his time during the American Revolution, because the French king and Tocqueville and other French leaders really did try to create a constitutional monarchy. And republic. They really did go out for it. They said basically the monarch has no power. You guys can have the republic. Let's do it. And it just blew out of control. The French Revolution went to full blast. And out came the guillotines. Out rolled the heads. That's what this thing leads to, guys. Political violence. Okay? Political violence is a flame that, if started, is almost impossible to put out. Okay? And it doesn't lead anywhere good. Name one place where political violence with the mobs ended up well. No, you can't name it, because even every nation that uses this to gain independence, the nations fall in disrepair and huge levels of violence, huge levels of sexual assault, huge levels of poverty and corruption. We here in the Western world, the United States of America, are not immune to the effects of political violence. We've had political violence in our history, okay, race riots and so on. Did anything good come from that? No, okay. We have established, I think, in the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s, led by, of course, the wonderful MLK Jr., Martin Luther King Jr., that when it came to civil dissidence or civil violence, civil dissidence wins out by large margins to change things towards the good. Okay, so even as a policy, political violence isn't effective. What is effective is it's good at destroying lives. Political violence is wonderful at destroying institutions, at destroying peace. It's wonderful at making people afraid, turning up the levels of enmity in our heart, making us hate one another. Trump over the weekend did make a stupid joke about a senator, or was it a senator? Anyhow, congressperson that had body slammed a reporter. It was a stupid thing to say. Trump, during his campaign, often did push just kind of insinuated that maybe attacking the media was all right. Trump has said the media is the enemy of the people. Again, not good. Here's the thing. People on my side of the aisle are willing to call out Trump when he says stupid things. Okay, this is an important distinction. See, and do everyone do it? No, the Sean Hannitys of the world would never do it. But the Ben Shapiros, the Glenn Becks, the Steven Crowders, the Dave Rubins, all kinds of classical liberals, libertarians, and conservatives are willing to say, that is not right. That is not right. It's not good. Okay, political violence is not good. It won't get you the ends you want, and all it will do is cause chaos and destruction and hurt. And I know this sounds long-winded, but I have to tell you exactly in strong terms why political violence is wrong. It's not just because it destroys everything it touches, because it doesn't lead to good ends. What came out of the French Revolution? Was it freedom? No. It was not freedom. They got Napoleon twice. It did not turn out well for them, did it? All right, so hopefully now you understand why I feel so strongly on this issue. I love this country. I love family members that are on the left. I love family members on the right. Okay, I can love Democrats. I read Democrat books. I read leftist books. Right now I'm reading All the Lies My Teacher Told Me. It's a great book written in the 1990s about how textbooks were too pro-American and would hide the negative, bitter history of our country. And it's a great book. I recommend you read it. Because it does have good points to bring out about how we need to look at, both the positives and the negatives of our history. Not going down that rabbit hole. I'm just saying that, if in a healthy nation, we listen and we talk to both sides and we learn from both sides, okay? That's what we want to do. That's the ideal. That's what we had, in the American Revolution. When we were creating the Constitution, we had the Federalism Papers. We had the Anti-Federalism Papers. Okay, we discuss things in civil terms. And we figure things out. What came out of that? What came out of that great debate? Well, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution of the United States. Okay, we had syncretism between the two parties, and it led to amazing, amazing things. So, what got me fired up? Well, I tried, as soon as I read this, I blew a gasket. I was like, what the fetch? Why would you ever say, write an essay with the title, Count Me Among the Mob, that wasn't satire? So here's what I wrote. I said, well, all right then, leftists, get out your pitchforks and torches. If the New York Times says it's okay, then it must be right. Ugh, this is insanely dangerous rhetoric. It's wrong when President Trump says anything like this. Not because he is Trump, but because political violence is, wait for it, evil. Now, how do you think that was taken? Social media. I forgot the number one rule of social media is don't feed the trolls. And of course, I'm not going to say the names of the people that wrote this, but I will write their responses, and you can see what got me so fired up. The first one, can you quote what you deem as insanely dangerous rhetoric from the article? Okay, so then I go to the easy one. Well, count me among the mob if this means people who stand opposition to Trump's degradation of the country in all ways. The mob stands up for women, against the NRA. I want it. If the mob hates corruption, loves the increasing diversity of this country, then it is for me. This is establishing the idea that any ends justify the means because the Trump admin is evil. Basically, that's a summary of the article, right? It's wrong when conservatives think this way, too, by the way. Political violence is a dangerous precedent that can quickly get out of control. Ask the French how their revolution went. Okay, of course, here was the answer. The answer in the reply was, of course, wasn't, oh, you bring up a good point. I agree. That's what I was hoping I'd get. Part of me knew that this was a dare and that this lady was being insincere, but I thought, go for it, because over the weekend I had such a nice conversation with Nick that I thought maybe people are more open to different ideas and stuff, and we can reach a good common place. Here was the response. It was just all whataboutism. Trump praised someone for body slamming a reporter. He has encouraged violence against reporters, calling them an enemy of the state. Where was I? If this steams you when his rhetoric doesn't, and don't tell me it does, you are silent. You see everything wrong with society. The only call to violence in those paragraphs are through your orange-stained glasses. Okay, so here's my response. I'm not certain what we disagree here. We both find political violence wrong. We both don't like Trump saying anything like that. Again, wrong. The problem is that I'm willing to say Trump can be wrong, but that you aren't willing to call out your side either. Ends justify the means ideology is very destructive, and it is a fire that isn't easy to put out. That's why we need to tell both sides to cool off, take a breath, and stick to our democratic norms, okay? Of course, then the reply was, your interpretation is that what it is said, which is a stretch at best. When Trump openly and graphically termed says that you are silent, I really thought that even though we disagree ideologically, or at least a free thinker. My mistake. Well, a friend of mine, of course, came out, and I appreciate him trying to defend me, or he did. He was saying I'm a free thinker, and he's just a nice guy. Thank you to Aaron Levacy for doing that. He's a neighbor of mine, actually. Lives just not too far away from me. Very nice guy, by the way. There was some more whataboutism. Someone said, well, you spun into the web of thinking the left is inciting political violence. When extremist conservatives are plenty and political violence has been committed inside. The president's words have repercussions, including death. The article stating, calming the mob. If I want these things, it's no way inciting political violence. It is a term that's getting thrown around by conservative media. You're doing what the Russians want. Dude, you don't want this S on your public record. Reevaluate your rhetoric, yourself, your goals for life, humanity, please. You're eating from the Russians' hands. Stand up for Americans, please. Now, I could say to that person that was a threat. But I'm not going there because I am just trying to do what's right, and I leave the consequences there. Maybe he's right. Maybe in the long term that it's wrong because maybe some job offer, if I'm ever well enough to even hold down a job, will get told for me. But hopefully all this is worth it. Of course, the narration's talking about, what about colleges? What about the shooting at Steve Scalise? I mean, to be ignorant of this, and then it's not very fair to say Pete is eating from Russian hands. And they just go on and on and on. Okay. So that is the whole. I know it took half an hour. I know this is a diatribe. After all of this, I talked to Robert. I was like, I'm just so flippin' frustrated. And he's like, man, they're just all screaming at each other. He's right. So here's the thing. That editorial was as close as you could get to call out for political violence. That was as close as you could get without just getting right behind the line and just saying, go for it. We have got to cool things down. I mean it. This is maybe an add-on to last week's episode, but we have got to cool things down. Okay, this is insane. How can we be at this point? This is dangerous. You think, guys, that if we use this rhetoric, that after the midterm elections, doesn't matter who wins what, that things are going to calm down, that we're just saying, okay, elections are done. We didn't actually mean all those things we said. I mean, it's all good now. No, things are just going to get worse because we've established that it works. Or we have established that we're justified because the other side is evil. The other side is Satan. The great Satan. That's what Iran says about us. They say it because it justifies any and all measures against us, including terrorism. This is not good. Again, I go to Abraham Lincoln quote from the Bible, who quoted from the Bible, "A house divided cannot stand." Our house is divided against itself. Please, let's back this train up, turn around, go the other direction, make peace, make love. Wasn't that the thing in the 60s, free love? Let's make free love with one another. Not physically, not that kind, the other kind. Let's love one another. Make peace, okay? We all love Marvel movies. I mean, don't we? We all love Disney movies. We all love, our kids, our dogs, our family, our grandparents. We have so much more in common than we do differently. So let's just please turn this boat around. I beg you. I'm on my knees. I'm begging you. Please. People on the right, people on the left, calm down. Try to speak kindly to one another. Try to use reason. Like the Thomas Jefferson quote I love, put reason firmly in her seat. Go that route. And I'm telling you guys, if there are people around you that says, well, it's okay if we get in people's faces and we protest them at restaurants, they're doing it to us. This is a disagreement I have with a conservative group that is around here a lot, Americans for Prosperity. They teach their people how to use Saul Alinsky tactics. Okay, because, the left uses it. It seems effective. Why not copy it? Now, I don't know for certain that they're copying all the brutal parts of the Saul Alinsky philosophy. But it isn't right if we do it. I mean, that's the whole point. The Saul Alinsky is wrong not because he was doing it for leftists and for socialism and fascism and statism. He was wrong because the tactics themselves are wrong. It's just crazy. I'm gonna lose my head. Okay, let's move on. You need a list of this clip. This is a news package from Reuters. It's gonna blow your mind. This is the nuttiest news story I've heard in a while. I mean, man, we are living in an alternate reality. Donald Trump is president, and then we have this. All right, let's go ahead. Clip 1.
Dozens gathered with self-described witches at an occult bookstore in Brooklyn, New York over the weekend. Not for an early Halloween party, but to cast a curse on the newly confirmed U.S. Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh.
Yes! Holy crap! That's a thing! Yeah, that's a real thing! But wait, guys. Wait, guys. It gets better.
Rain down divine retribution on the heads of every one of these evil men.
Melissa Madera of Catland Books is one of the organizers of Saturday's event and said the ritual was an act of resistance and resilience.
There was a lot of rage in the community following the hearing with Dr. Ford and Kavanaugh's confirmation, and we wanted to give people a chance to engage in a little bit of direct action through spirituality with us.
Madera says the Kavanaugh Hex, which was live streamed on Facebook and Instagram,
And so it shall be.
was one of the most popular events the store has hosted since it opened in 2013, including spells aimed at President Trump.
It's a witch hunt.
Our hexes on Trump began after he already took a seat in the presidency.
Wait. You've been doing it for that long? He's been president for 2 years. I'm going to say, guys, I don't think it's working.
The event drew anti-witch demonstrators outside the bookstore and sparked counter-hexes around the country by those hoping to undo the Brooklyn Coven's spell.
Yeah, you got that right. This thing took fire. Basically, this came out, they're like, I want to do it too. And then, of course, some theologians came out, was like, this is devil worship. We have to hold our own masses encounter. And so there's new protesting groups. Yay, we're going to cast hexes on Kavanaugh. Oogity boogity boo. I cast a spell on you. And then the people in the back were like, oh, this, stop the devil worship, stop the devil worship. There's no proof this works, but stop it anyways. I mean, I'm not making fun of their beliefs totally. It's just, I don't think it works, guys. That's what I'm saying. Because Trump's still president. And it may look like the GOP's going to hold Senate, possibly the House. I just don't think it's working. Well, the video and reports will say that, don't worry, guys. If you missed out on this, you can join in on November 3rd. November 3rd, you can get on your computer and on live stream, you can cast hexes with Catland Books. Meow! Meow, 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 meow. I'm just imagining giant furry cats casting hexes on, mice or something. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Oh, I think I've lost my mind. I think I've lost it. It's gone. It's dead. It's gone. I'm crazy. There's no way we're living in this reality. I seriously can't believe. Okay, so before I end, I gotta play some audio of this of this ceremony. It's just nutty. It's actually pretty fun. You guys should watch it. Bring some popcorn. Watch the video. It's 30 minutes, but it's just so bonkers. It is really bonkers. You know what? I'm just going to, I'm not going to play the audio. I'm going to skip that. I'm going to move on to different and maybe not as funny, but just as crazy things that came out this week that as soon as I read them, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to talk about this on the Happy Warrior podcast. I got to. It's going to be great. Okay, first article. By the way, did any of you see this piece by the Babylon Bee? It just caught... It's funny. It caught an image grab of CNN. It's called CNN Piece on Points of Journalism featured next to article examining Trump's eating habits. No joke. It really is. The Babylon Bee is a satiric website, kind of like The Onion, but a bit more Christian oriented. And it's funny. It has journalism is the last remaining guardian democracy. And right next to it is an article that says top stories just in Trump ate a Big Mac. It's so funny. I love that. That is great. Okay, so where should we start? Okay, I'm going to go with this Washington Post piece that came over. So you guys know the Ask Caroline. It's kind of an Ask Ann column. People send in letters about their life's woes and dramas. Their drama llama. Their llama drama llama. Llama drama. The only caveat for this Washington Post piece is because it's behind a paywall, so it's a little difficult for some of you to get to it. I only listen to other people read it, so I'm going to a Daily Wire article. It's kind of funny. It says, playground drama, as the anonymous advice seeker was described, told hacks about a group of moms with daughters who gather at a local playground at the same time each week. There's no designated girl time or boys time at the playground, remember. And there's no way that you can rent this park. Okay, but this mom decided, she just decided that during this playground time with all the moms and all the girls, this was a girls' time at the playground only, no boys allowed. Well, guess what happened? A mom showed up with, guess what? Oh my gosh, she came with a defective girl, sometimes called a boy. And she was like, if she comes back, is there a better way I can approach her? She says, I like how the Daily Wire put this. The mom asked the mother of the little boy nicely, she thought, if she would take her future patriarchal oppressor and get the heck out of there. Naturally, the other mom did not agree and seemed angry at the woman's request. Well, yeah, I'd be PO too. And this is from the Washington Post article. I read this next bit from the article. If she comes back, is there a better way I can approach her? This has been such a sweet time for moms and daughters, and having a boy there is naturally going to change things. We live in a world where boys get everything and girls are left with the crumbs, and I would think this mom would realize that. But she seems to think her son is entitled to crash this girls' only time. I know I can't legally keep her from a public park, but can I appeal to her better nature? That is awesome. That is awesome. Yes, the patriarchy. That's right. The patriarchy was like, I see women with little girls playing at playground. Oh, wait, send in Barb and her boy. Yeah, ruin it for them. Women, of course, they have to have all the crumbs. I mean, it's just nuts. It's nuts. No, it's just like, this is a public playground. I saw kids. My kid wants to play with kids. Let them play. Our little boys and little girls, do they play differently? Yes. But there's no way you can ban people from the public park. My gosh. That's just insane. Insanity, it seems to be downstream from culture. That's just nuts. Of course, now for Ask Caroline, in her defense, she says, you're crazy, lady. She says shooing off the mom and her boy was terrible, and justifying it as a cosmic correction for which an innocent child bears the weight, and still trying to do this even after you've had time to think about it? Wow. And he said that the little boy had feelings, and he might even display better girl behavior than some of the girls. The boy's mother is a woman who seems to be the mercy of those same crumbs that Vice Seeker mentioned, and may have just wanted to spend time with other moms at the park. I love this. This is a beautiful line. And if you're going to accuse anyone of being entitled, then ask yourself who just asked the world to bend to whom. Snap! Yeah! Way to go! Way to go! Home run! Yeah, that is awesome. I love that. That is fantastic. I hope, Robert, if you listen to this, that is awesome. You got to talk to some of the other podcasts. Zach Dresch would enjoy that. I think Zach would enjoy that. Christina Hoff Sommers, the equity feminist, who I'm a huge fan of, she wrote, my God, Fury feminism now targeting little boys, hanging the no boys allowed sign at a public playground. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. It sums up. Way to go for Ask Caroline for pushing back on that. That's nuttier than a bowl full of peanuts. I mean, fruitier than a fruitcake. Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. Now, what I talk about the defective boy is that often in education and with children, when boys don't display the same behavior or perform exactly like girls do, they're looked at as being defective. It's called boys are essentially defective little girls. And that's what I'm making a reference to. Because basically they're saying that boys, they ruin everything. And we can't have a boy here. The girls are entitled. The girls are entitled to this playground. Dang it. Dang nabbit. My gosh. Well, if you think that is crazy, you have got to hear this next article. Okay, this one is just as good, if not better. All right, so to read this one, it's from Slate. It's called The Rage of All Women. It uses a word that you couldn't see on radio. Not a common slur. I just want to let you know, if you think of the Netherlands and dykes, we're going to be talking about that word. So if you want to warn your kids or turn down the volume, I understand. Okay, so I'll just read it. That's the advantage of podcasts, is I don't have to worry about the FCC coming after me. Man-hating dyke is the worst thing you can call lesbian, but in the Me Too era, it's time to reclaim it. And it's, they talk about man-hating dyke. This is more about the hysteria and inanity that women are facing lately. I think because, I'll start here. Because of the Brett Kavanaugh stuff, we have now established that women are fragile, weak beings made of glass. They'll shatter easily. They can't handle any trauma. They can't handle any stress. Everyone is being sexual assaulted all the time. If we're going to have relations, we need to have a 5-page contract pulled out. There are apps that you can download right now that have a consent form that you and your significant other can fill out before you do the horizontal mambo. It's just insane. We're going back to the Victorian days of fainting couches. We really are. It's embarrassing. So I keep that in mind when I read this to you guys. In the wake of the Kavanaugh hearings, Dyke friend in her 20s posted that Real Talk, she doesn't like men. I hit the like button super fast, feeling secretive and sort of guilty about it. She'd come through the same radical queer and trans circles that came up in, and in that click, I felt relieved to acknowledge an obvious truth. Most men treat women like something less than human, whether accidentally or on purpose, and that means it's hard to like them. Men are mean to women. They think they're subhuman, and so women can't like men. They're hard to like. I'd recently been scanning the men coming into my workplace. This is insane, by the way. If you do this, you need to see a psychiatrist. I've been scanning the men coming into my workplace, wondering, this is Slate, by the way. This workplace is Slate. Coming into my workplace, wondering about their histories of sexual assault. Is he a rapist? What about him? Where does he fall on the creep scale? It was an old impulse that returned in force as the nation debated just how many of their husbands, brothers, and sons were perpetrators. Given that 1 in 3 American women, this is a false statistic that gets peddled everywhere, 1 in 3 American women experiences sexual violence in their lifetimes. Republicans insisted that men were the ones who should be afraid, while women recounted that every day, harrowing ways we reroute our lives to avoid assault. Every day we reroute our lives. Every single day. My woke male coworkers made the Me Too jokes as if the whole thing was a funny spectacle. It was enough to make me want to stop talking to men entirely. That's yes, that is a real thing. She analyzes the men that come into her workplace wondering, is he a rapist? When was the last time he assaulted a woman? Just nuts. 1 in 3 statistic is insane, by the way. That would mean that America is the most dangerous nation on earth for women. That's higher than the Rwandan genocide. That's higher than Nigeria, Liberia. It's higher than anywhere in the Middle East. That would make us the number 1 nation for sexual assault. That is insane. It's not true. It's not even close to true. They do statistics based on per 1,000 or per 10,000 or per 100,000. Okay, you don't get even close to 1% usually. Okay, so to say 1/3 is insane. There's no statistics in the universe to prove this idea. None. Zero, zip, zilch. It gets crazier. She says, still inside my head, the not me all men chorus roared. What about the dad of 2 who liked all my angry tweets? Or the guy who showed up at the hospital with too much food when my spouse was in labor? Or my friends who are trans men? Which, by the way, trans men is very, very confusing me. So if they're trans men, that means they're women that want to be men. So do you like them or do you not like them? Because they used to be women, right? So does that mean they're trustworthy or not? That's very confusing. It gets even more confusing if it's a trans woman. Like, where do you go with that? Patriarchy runs so deep that I defend hypothetical men's feelings right away, even to myself. Here's where it gets crazy. I am a married lesbian. As far away from needing male approval as a woman can get. She does not have to deal with male approval in her life. And I still feel it. The slow, poisonous strip of cultural conditioning that tells me to prioritize men. My imagination, that thing that could break us out of America fascism, no imagination is breaking anybody out of anything. It's trapped in an old feminist loop. Because I've been trained that the worst thing I can be is a man-hating D-word. But it's time to confront the lament homophobia in that insult. And our fear that anger makes us seem too gay. Because anger, not fear, is precisely the emotion that's needed these days. Anger, not fear, is the emotion needed these days? I turned back to segment 1 of this episode, or last week's episode. I mean, what? Yeah, this is crazy. This is crazy. She does admit in this that women being angry is trendy right now. That people joke in podcasts about how rage makes their sex life better, reminding the world, perhaps unconsciously, that women's anger needs a heterosexual qualifier. And here's the thing. Here it gets even crazier because some of you may have been seeing this, but because intersectionality, and this is I need to do an episode where I discuss these terms, what it means. Okay, so we'll do this. Intersectionality is this theory that the value of a person should be determined by how hurt they are, how put under the wheels of the system, how much they are discriminated against, how low they are on the totem pole. So it goes like men are the top, cis white men are on the top because they don't have to see anything problems. Everything in life is stacked in their favor. Supposedly this is not true. And that the lower you go on the pyramid is the worst off the person. So blacks are worse than whites, gays are worse than straight, transgender. So a transgender, black, genderqueer, I don't know, socialist with one arm and no legs, blind in one eye, deaf in 2 ears would be like the ultimate on the intersectionality scale. Intersectionality does this thing, though, to get benefits means to race the bottom, and it makes victimhood trendy. It rewards victimhood. Intersectionality is a pyramid scheme that rewards victimhood. Not healthy, not good, and not really a lot of literature to support this idea actually makes any logistic sense. This is intersectionality is loved at colleges these days. I mean, colleges revolve around intersectionality. Okay, so there we go. So intersectionality means, though, that we're going to have angry at people above us and sympathy for the ones below us. Well, guess who's near the top? White women, white straight women. So here's where the Slate article goes. She says, when straight cis white women talk about anger, it's sexy resistance fuel. When straight cis black women get angry, they get caricatured and punished. When cis lesbians talk about anger, we get Rosie O'Donnell, used as a shield for misogyny. Since men know other women won't defend us. Men hating D-word is a classic insult aimed at lesbians or Hillary Clinton. Second wave straight feminists did whatever they could to distance themselves from lesbians, avoiding the lavender menace and adopting pretty gender-conforming icons like Gloria Steinem. I don't know what world they're living in. Gloria Steinem, straight or queer, angry or not, trans women's mere existence is considered a threat. So there we go. They say that white women can't understand. They've set bad precedents. Okay, I mean, white women are just almost as bad as the white men. It's insane. It's just crazy. You should read the rest of it. It's on the outline, but please, it's making me laugh. It is so funny. So she kind of gets here at the end. She kind of gets, I don't know. I think her essay's a little off tilt because she doesn't even really get to the thesis of her essay till near the end, where she wants to bring back the D word, dykes in the Netherlands. I don't know what this is. Leftists are all about bringing back words. There's a couple of words that are awful and they want to bring them back. And that's stupid because one, it's a dumb idea because why? What do we gain for bringing that word back? Number two, all it does is make a word that one minority could use and the others cannot. Okay, the N-word, for example, is the perfect example of this. Only blacks get to use the N-word, and maybe some minorities and Democrats. But the higher you are on the intersectional scale, the more words are banned from you. It's silly. It's silliness. It's infantile and silly. Okay, so those are two articles that I just can't believe they exist. They're so funny. I know I laugh a lot on this podcast because this is the Happy Warrior, but man, that is just craziness. Craziness. Okay. I want to talk to you guys about Mitch McConnell, Proud Boys, protesting, maybe Teen Vogue. I want to make this a full episode. I've been a little light on the past episodes. I'm sorry that it's been like this. I'm still doing this. It's just a two-person operation, and there's a lot going on in my producer's life that's kind of on the heavy side, and, I've got my own health issues, so sometimes I don't do as well as getting these podcast episodes out. Sorry about it. We'll do better. I'll do better. Okay, so let's move on. Let's go with this. So I want to show you the divide in our culture. Okay, so I have 2 articles, same subject. One from the right, Daily Wire. One from the left, Jezebel. Again, reclaiming words that I don't get it. Okay, I'm going to play the audio. Then I'm going to tell you the 2 different takes on this. You, the viewer, you listener, you decide. The listener decides. This is what media should be doing, right? Laying the listener's side. So let's go for it. You should know that this is Mitch McConnell being confronted at a restaurant. So similar to the Ted Cruz stuff, that's what this video is.
Oh, yeah. Why don't you get out of here? Why don't you leave the entire country?
I'm going to sell it to TMZ.
Yeah, so I know for those listening, that was probably disappointing. I was really hoping for a solid chant. You know, I love those chants. You know how I love those chants so much. Okay, so which one should we do? Daily Wire, Slate. Daily Wire, Slate. Daily Wire, Slate. Okay, so Daily Wire is Mitch McConnell confronted by protesters at restaurant. Yet another Republican has been harassed while dining out, this time Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky. He and his wife were finishing up their meal at Havana Rumba in Louisville, Kentucky, when 4 men began yelling at them, according to video obtained by TMZ. Yes, the lady did sell her video to TMZ. In the short clip, the leader of the protesters asked McConnell, "Why don't you get out of here? Why don't you leave the entire country? Someone else can be heard yelling, 'Ditch Mitch.'" The woman who shot the video and sent it told the outlet the same protester slammed his fist down at McConnell's table, grabbed his doggy bag, threw the food out the door of the restaurant. She also said the protester appeared to be most concerned with Social Security and healthcare, said McConnell was killing people with his views before she started filming. McConnell and wife can be seen calmly sitting while the men scream at them. Some other restaurant patrons appear to try and calm the men down. After the protesters left, McConnell shook the hands of those who supported him and thanked them. There you go. There you go. That's the article that you were all hoping for. At least I was hoping for. That was pretty fair. Okay. Daily Wire did a pretty fair job there. So let's move over to, if you can hear my mouse clicks, let's move over to the slot. It's part of Gawker. It's not Jezebel. I said the wrong thing. It's Gawker. Gizmodo is this whole network of blogs that's owned by them. Kotaku is one I like to read a lot. But anyhow, the slot. It's kind of like Jezebel. It's kind of like The Root. Okay, so here's how they took it. Millionaire senators seem to have PO'd off a few people for calling their health insurance too expensive. And here's the first paragraph. Melted bobblehead Dementor, so that's a Harry Potter reference, who came to public office solely to feed on human goodwill. So not biased at all, guys. Mitch McConnell was reportedly confronted by his constituents at a Louisville restaurant Friday night. According to TMZ, the man whose facial expressions correspond directly to human suffering was berated by one diner who told him that his mission to dismantle healthcare and Social Security was killing people. Mitch, guardian of gridlock McConnell, can be seen tenting his finger while man yells, "Why don't you get out of here? Why don't you leave the entire country?" Seen tenting his fingers. What's that mean? Is that like this? Like I just put like my hands together? Like just resting my hands? I'm tenting my hands. Like, oh my gosh, you better watch out, guys. I'm tenting my fingers. Well, the man yells, "Why don't you get out of here? Why don't you leave the entire country?" TMZ reports that before the camera started rolling, slammed fists down at the table, grabbed doggy bag, threw food out the door of the restaurant. And here's their little paragraph to justify the rhetoric. Not rhetoric, a bias maybe. McConnell reported multi-millionaire taking hundreds of thousands of dollars per year from the tax payroll actively worked to destroy the planet for personal gain, reportedly replied that entitlement programs are to blame for debt. It was under this guise on Wednesday McConnell promised a fresh attempt to dismantle Obamacare after the primaries, ignoring consideration of the stagnating revenues under the GOP tax plan. So did anywhere in that article say, maybe you shouldn't get up in the senator's face while he's eating food, throw his doggy bag, pound your body on the table. Go, "Arr, arr." Okay, I'm going to pound the table, guys. Watch out. Okay, there we go. That was a recreation of the Mitch McConnell TMZ video. I'm going to sell the TMZ. Isn't that interesting how those two websites look at this issue? Daily Wire was pretty fair. Now, if it had been Maxine Waters in the same setup, I don't know. Maybe Daily Wire would be more biased. But at least in this case, they had the better coverage of it. That's crazy. That's mob thing. Well, here I said earlier that mobs are wrong when they're on the left and on the right. And I'm going to put my money down and prove it. So here we go. Next article. Okay, so for this next video, I'm going to play language warning. The F-bomb is used pretty frequently. It's unsure who organized this. Some people are saying Proud Boys, but Proud Boys are saying it wasn't them, and actually was organized by this guy named Diaz. Anyhow, if this is a real protest and it's by real people on the right, it's wrong, okay? So let's play the video. Nancy Pelosi has to go inside this building for safety. It's where they're going to have her talk. The crowd gets really restless. They just act crazy. So let's listen to the clip.
Fuck Nancy Pelosi. You guys suck. This shit lit. What's up, brother? Open up. There's some Proud Boys in here. Cowards. Socialism sucks. There we go. Socialism sucks. Socialism sucks. You guys socialism sucks. 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 Socialism sucks.
All right, so there you go. Now, I don't know what exactly was going on, but Steve Scalise, here's his tweet about this whole scenario, and Steve Scalise is 100% right. I don't agree with Nancy Pelosi's agenda, but this is absolutely the wrong way to express those disagreements. If you want to stop her policy, don't threaten her. Vote. That's how we settle our differences. And Pelosi said, "It's stunning that Republicans have the gall to call courageous survivors of sexual assault a mob. At the same time, they incite and condone violent actions like this." 100% correct. Nancy Pelosi is correct. I know, it's a miracle that I said that out loud. She is right. If we're going to say the left is acting like a mob, we do not adopt those mob tactics. Okay, it's not because leftism, I believe, is wrong. Okay, but besides that, perhaps more importantly, the tactics used by the left is wrong. Political violence is wrong. Using two wrongs does not solve a right. I know that's a dumb limerick, but it's true. In this case, it's true. It's wrong of them to do this. Now, how much Proud Boys was involved with that thing I talked about in the last episode? It was a mutual beating. I don't know if I specified that as well, that both sides were fighting each other. The big video that got pushed out was of the Proud Boys in one particular part of the escalation winning, and that's kind of what got everywhere. But it was a mutual, awful people attacking each other. So let's move on. We did a bunch of serious things. I just proved that our country, parts of our country have just gone loco. Loco in the cabeza. Oh, maybe I should, I did just talk about Cubanos, right? They speak Spanish. Anyhow, let's move on. I'm having a hard time finding a short, funny video that's kind of political-ish to share with you guys. I'm just going to go to the Al Smith dinner. I can't find video anywhere of Jim Gaffigan's routine edit, but there is going around what Nikki Haley said. Nikki Haley is awesome. I love Nikki Haley. She's a funny person. She's willing to poke fun at herself. I like that. I like it when people are willing to be self-deprecating and honest. So here it is, clip Nikki Haley at the Al Smith dinner that happened just last week.
Actually, the president called me this morning and gave me some really good advice. He said, if I get stuck for last, just brag about his accomplishments. It really killed at the UN. Last year you went with Paul Ryan, who's a Boy Scout, and that's fine, but a little boring. So this year you wanted to spice things up again, right? I get it. You wanted an Indian woman, but Elizabeth Warren failed her DNA test. Actually, when the president found out that I was Indian American, he asked me if I was from the same tribe as Elizabeth Warren.
That's pretty good. She failed her DNA test. Some of you may have noticed that I am not talking about the Elizabeth Warren stuff at all. Everyone else has, so it feels pointless to bring it up. But that was pretty funny. Okay, so what else? What else should I share with you? So this is a video by Reason TV. It's not a music video this time, guys. Sorry, Remy hasn't put out a new one yet. That banana one is still stuck in my head. It's called Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and Why Civility Can't Return to Politics. And this is their argument about why we can't become civil again. It's from a libertarian perspective, but I think it's pretty insightful. So I'm going to go ahead and play it in full, and I guess hope that Reason doesn't sue me.
They used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this. They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. I'm going to stomp all over your face with golf spikes because I'm going to win this for the state of Pennsylvania.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about.
If politics these days seem especially ugly, that's because they are. Not even counting physical attacks on Senator Rand Paul, the shooting of Congressman Steve Scalise, and the punching and kicking that have become routine at demonstrations. Politics are more heated and divisive than they have been in years, and for good reason. The people who control politics insist that every piece of legislation, every Supreme Court nomination, every midterm election, every minor rule change is bringing the world one step closer to the apocalypse. Using plastic straws, kneeling for the national anthem, decade-old tweets, there isn't anything we do anymore that doesn't immediately get sucked into angry partisan arguments. Civility won't return until more of us channel our inner libertarians and realize that not all parts of our lives need to be politicized. How do you expect people to respond when we're told each day is the beginning of the end of our way of life, that the other side is not just mistaken but pure evil?
You are either complicit in the evil, you are either contributing to the wrong, or you are fighting against it.
And we're limited to two parties that represent fewer and fewer of us. The government is spending more, it's borrowing more, and it's controlling more and more aspects of our lives for no reason other than pure political gain.
If we are fortunate enough to win back the House and/or the Senate, that's when civility can start again.
If civility can't return to politics unless your team is in charge, you're doing it wrong. Civility is only going to return when people stop treating politics as the only thing that matters, and we start actually shrinking the size, scope, and spending of government and give ourselves some room to breathe. That's especially true if we're stuck with just two choices who have pledged to screw the other side over. Neither Republicans nor Democrats offer a plan where you get to live however you want, which helps explain why so few of us want to be part of either party, and why civility won't return to politics until politicians stop cramming themselves into every corner of our lives.
All right, before we end the program today, there was one more story that I feel it's really important that we talk about. It's pretty scary. So as you know, I am, as a disabled man, I am strongly against eugenics and euthanasia. Strongly against it. Euthanasia is evil. It is the fruit of eugenics. Eugenics is evil. No ands, if, or buts. It's evil. Okay? The push that we want to have disabled people euthanized because life is too hard is disgusting to me. Disgusting. It's wrong. There's no other word for it. It's wrong. Well, guess what? Guess what's happening in Toronto? And I mean, I'm disturbed. See, sometimes the arguments for euthanasia is, well, this is just for the elderly and those that, they're terminally ill. But it doesn't stop there. As I talked about in the story of Case K, an essay I did for Robert 2 years ago, it never stops there. That's where it begins. It always ends up going to everyone but the most fit and healthy. Man in the High Castle Season 3 is out. I've almost finished it. Amazing. But we act as if the idea of eugenics is this old thing that only the Nazis did. And it's not true. It was a theory of thinking that we could, by evolution and by science, organize society and perfect man to move towards utopia. It was loved by everyone. I mean, everyone. The Nazis put a bad name to it, and it killed, at least in out of academia, it killed most places. But I mean, the Tuskegee experiments were going on sometimes in the 70s. There was forced sterilization. Even here in South Dakota, they would sterilize the mentally unwell. Scary stuff. So as a disabled man, I am strongly against eugenics and euthanasia. Okay? Against it. Strongly against it. And it comes from the same room that why I'm against abortion. Because I believe in life. Because I believe God has a plan for each and every one of us. And how can we fulfill his plan if we kill ourselves? Suicide is wrong, okay? And that's what forced, unforced euthanasia is wrong. Okay, but if we're going to have euthanasia at all, at least maybe we could have voluntarily, right? Voluntarily euthanasia for those who are terminally ill. That's kind of where maybe we could compromise. It's disgusting, but maybe it's a compromise position. But like I said, it never stops there. So in Toronto, the Toronto Hospital is saying that they're going to provide assisted suicide plan for kids, and they won't have to inform the parents. No, this is not an exaggeration. This is a real thing. This is maybe the most important news story, at least if people are worried about life and about the effect, the culture of death and the culture of life, and people who are worried about this. In Toronto, they're going to allow minors to have assisted suicide, and they're going to do it in such a way that they don't have to inform the parents about it. That's crazy. How could they not inform the parents? But something like, well, we didn't inform them. So the parents are like, where's Bobby? Oh, Bobby's dead. What? Why didn't you say anything? Well, we didn't want to inform you. That's scary. Scary. And this is where socialized medicine leads you, because socialized medicine means that there is a limit on spending for healthcare. The government has to pay for it all. It has to prioritize those who are most likely to live and make good use of it. Okay, this is just how it is. This is the Barack Obama position. When Barack Obama said that, sometimes it's just better getting the pain pill because, there'll be too much of a waste of resources. They're old. Just give them a pain pill, let them die. Okay, that's what socialized medicine always leads to every single time, because there is a limit of finances. Okay, and so who do we get rid of first? We get rid of the useless eaters, those who can't contribute to society, those who don't have the finances and the resources to stand up for themselves. In Canada, it says here in this article from CBN News, we all know that in Canada, an ER visit for a frail elderly person, the main clientele for palliative care, means lying on a gurney in a hallway for hours. This is the last person, dying person, often confused, incontinent, and in pain should be. This kind of humiliation is untenable, and we should be ashamed at how commonplace it is. It is heinous that we are pushing suicide assistance instead of suicide prevention in Toronto. Heinous. Evil. Evil. That is the great Satan. That truly is evil. We call ourselves evil. That's not right. But there are certain things, there are certain policies that are evil. If you're a religious person, I believe that is what Satan wants. Because you completely end the agency of someone when you kill them. Disastrous and wrong. And this is why we need to, Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, that's why we need to fight against socialized medicine 100,000%. There's no room for compromise on that. Okay. I'm just flabbergasted. That is evil and disgusting. What we have done because of the so-called opioid epidemic by forcing people like me to go without life-saving medicine, pain medicine, is evil too. But we see how much farther on Canada is. Is that what they're going to offer one day for me? Well, we can't give them opioids because they might get addicted. But, assisted suicide, that's always an option. In Washington, they actually had insurance providers that did this. Ugh, it's disgusting. Well, thank you so much for listening. This is the Happy Warrior. Sorry for ending at such a low beat, but I felt it was a news story that I had to get out. Thank you for listening. Please tell Michael Knowles to listen. Let's get a thing on the Daily Wire maybe, huh? That'd be pretty cool. Thank you to Robert Melling, my producer. Thank you to the veterans and military personnel and all those that serve our nation, stand up for our rights and liberties, and shed their blood. for all of us. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. I wish you all to have a good night. Please share the podcast wherever you can. If you have questions, comments, concerns, you can contact us at Facebook at Happy Warrior Pete. We're soon going to add a Twitter, or you can get me at pete@happy-warrior.net, PETE@happy-warrior.net. Thank you for listening. You are awesome. Good night.
Thank you for listening. The Happy Warrior Podcast, hosted by Peter Von Pischke, produced by Robert Mailing, a production of the Sioux Empire Podcast Network. Learn more at happy-warrior.net.
A production of the SiouxEmpire.com.